Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about my overall controller settings, the best performance settings I can get for you guys for frame rate, and how to get the best ping possible to play on the best servers you can to improve your Halo Infinite experience. Now I get asked a lot, Remy, what controller settings do you use? What do you recommend? And of course I give a baseline of what I use, but my best advice would be to pick something and just stick with it, and then over time, with consistent practice, you'll get better. With that said, here is what I use. Now since 2010 actually, Halo 3, I swapped to bumper jumper and it made the biggest difference to my gameplay. I really think that bumper jumper is the superior button layout. I know a lot of pros and a lot of people play with it. This is for people who don't have paddles on their controller. If you can map buttons so you don't have to take your hands off the controller, then do that too. But if you have a normal Xbox Series X controller like I have, bumper jumper lets you play without removing your hands from the controller. Now it's pretty funny that when I actually move to my actual settings, I haven't changed it all that much from what is at default. I think the default settings are 2 acceleration and then 5 look sensitivity. And I still play on 2 acceleration but 6.5 sensitivity. 6.5, 7 is kind of like my go-to across all games, which does feel different game to game, but it comes back to what I said before about consistency and just practicing. The number one thing to actually become more accurate is to just learn how the weapons handle and how you have to aim for maximum performance. I spent hours and hours using a sniper rifle in custom game against 7 bots. So I'd have 7 bots all running at me at once, and I'd try to take out as many as I can over and over and over again. And I still have to do that almost every single day because I can't use the sniper rifle often enough in Halo Infinite because it's just not on the map. Practice is very important. If you're a competitive player and you're watching this video and you don't pick up the sniper rifle very often, it's going to be very hard to then hit really consistent shots if you're not putting that time in to actually practice using the gun. That's just some food for thought. For sniping specifically, I raised my 10 times zoom and my 5 times zoom for the sniper to 1.1 because it was a little slow. So that's something I would highly recommend. And then I moved my dead zones for my controller down to 8 across the board. Now your dead zones are different controller to controller. A newer controller will have a much lower dead zone because the sticks are still tight, but as they loosen up, you might get drift, which means the aim will just slowly go up or slowly go down or left or right. The best way to test this is to put it to 0 and you slowly bring it up 1 point until you don't have any drift. That's the best way to explain it. Even across the board, the other dead zones are at 8. Now Halo Infinite is a very particular game in regards to connection and frame rate. So you want to be playing on the best possible settings you can because it's very, very important on this game. To all my Australians and Oceanic players, or even if you're from the EU, you want to play on the best server possible. I've linked a tutorial in the description below, and it's basically like MCC. You block all the servers except your local server. You can play on your best ping every single game. This is very important for me as an Australian because I was getting 250, 300 ping every game, and now I only play on 17 ping per game. Again, the tutorial to that is in the description. It's a Reddit post, has lots of information, and it's very straightforward. Next up we have frame rate, and this is for PC players, but the minimum frame rate is usually capped to 100, and it doesn't let you actually select 240. And I don't know why they've done this, but having your maximum and minimum frame rate at 240, even if your monitor is only a 144Hz monitor, will allow your frame rate to go higher than if your minimum frames were just set to 100. It's really weird. It makes no sense whatsoever. But setting it to 240 and 240 will usually give me 150, 160 FPS in game, and it's a hell of a lot better than when you get 100 or 110 FPS. To do this, I've linked another tutorial where you go into your config file, open it up in Notepad, and change the value from 100 to 240. Doing both these things, the ping and the frame rate, will take you 5-10 minutes max, and you're set up and you're all good to go. If you're trying to get maximum performance, there's a couple of things you can do to maximize frames but still being able to see people across the map. And this is important for BTB because you want to be able to see people across the map and not get shot at by invisible people you can't see because your render distance isn't good enough. So I have everything on low, and then the 2 things you set to ultra are simulation quality and texture quality. Again, it's going to depend on what your specs are. I've seen some people fiddling with their resolution scale and they put it down to 56%, but there's so many different PC builds that what works for some doesn't work for others. And a lot of the things I've tried has actually made my experience worse. So the best advice I can give is make that minimum, maximum frame rate 240, everything low, ultra textures, ultra simulation. Play on bumper jumper, pick a sensitivity that works for you, stick with it. Practice under pressure game modes and against bots. Make sure you practice with the sniper rifle and actually get the practice in, so when you verse real people, you're more confident and you know how the weapon works. And if you can't tell by how many times I've said this, the big thing is practice. And that goes for everything in life, not just Halo. So thank you all so much for watching. Hopefully this was educational, and I'll see you guys later.